I do believe it's working. Yeah. All right. I'm online. Yay. Okay. Well, there's there's always lots to share, and what I'm going to share for a while, yeah, and I've been sharing this, yeah, but you don't, you have to kind of put it together, watch every one that I do, it kind of all adds up. So what I'm going to point out here is the fact that we reincarnate, yeah, and when we reincarnate, we come from a past, yeah, and that past is history. It's history, and that could be the Civil War, yeah. It could be the moving to America and all the different nations, Sweden and France and England and all these, Spain, all these countries come to America. They settle in, they have territory. Yeah, England has its territory. It's now still Canada, and Sweden had territory, and we ousted them out early. Yeah, Spain had territory, and slowly but surely it was moved, and then Mexico took that over, so no longer it has any territory. Yeah, so that's history. That's our history, and a lot. If you go just 10 years at a time, or maybe 50 years at a time, each section, if you look at it, an enormous amount of stuff gets done in history. Yeah. So let's look at America. Go back to just 1850. 1850. I was born in 1950. This is 1850. Well, 1850, hundreds of thousands of people in the East are deciding that they need to go west. And there's territory. There are roads. There's maps. There's experience many people have written about. I've been to Oregon. I've been to California. This is paradise. That's where the cowboys are at. And this is what this is all about, And at that time, we were just opening territories. Yeah. So it was mainly just people who were beaver hunters and trades and things like that were in the territories. Yeah. But then this period of time came in 1850. Hundreds of thousands of people decided to get stagecoaches, yeah, and take those stagecoaches all the way across. And many, many, many people walked. They walked. Not a stagecoach, not a bicycle, nothing. Just their feet, yeah. Thousands and tens of thousands walked, yeah. All the way from the East Coast all the way to California and Oregon. Most went to Oregon, yeah. The trail led to where I was born, Tillamook, Oregon. That's the end of the trail. That's where the route takes you, yeah. So those areas have been developed by both Native Americans and trade people, and they know of the territory, yeah, and they built paths to those territories. So the Oregon Trail was the number one trail that these people took. Yeah, and it wasn't until they got to Willamette, that they would go down to California, or they would go continue up and go into Washington and other areas. Yeah, so those are the areas that got developed. Yeah, San Francisco, and the areas where there was gold. Yeah, so this is all happening in 1850 for only 40 years. Just 40 years. And all that you know about the West, everything you know about the West, all cowboys and everything you know about the West, only happened in a 40-year period. It's done and gone after 40 years. Your head doesn't go there, You don't have memory of history like that, but your soul does. So I'm speaking to your soul. Yeah, and I'm trying to get across a matter-of-fact reality, that we reincarnate. And we have history, and we made history. All those people who traveled all the way to the West made history. They made America. Yeah? They planted their seeds. They became those people. And in comes the railroad, and down goes the Civil War. All this is happening at the same time. Cowboys, Indians, Civil War, end of slavery, and the creation of the United States. States that all of a sudden went Confederate, went separate. Here we had developed states, but then all of a sudden we had a separation of states. People in a large mass of southern states decided no longer to be a part of the United States, but be the Confederate Union, and that they themselves would be allowed slavery or any other thing that they chose to do because they weren't going to be ruled by these non-slave attitudes of economy. It's ridiculous to think that a black person isn't incarnated to be a slave. It's ridiculous. And it's also ridiculous that an Indian isn't incarnated to be ran to the ground to die. It's impossible to have that notion that it's not that way. So literally half the United States were murderers and killers and pretty badass people, bad people, not good people, bigots, conspirators against what we're building. And that's the history. They lost. The Civil War lost. We freed slaves, but we lost our president at the same time. Same people killed him. So all within a short period of time, this history takes place. The Civil War, the making of everything, the making of America, the making of going to the West, the creation of the gold rush, outlawness, Deadwood and all those experiences, all those historical people, all those Indians that we know about, 40 years. It's the only history we have of it. But yet it started back in 1700. I'll give you a history lesson on that later, because you all reincarnate, And if you keep going, then you got to find yourself as a bunch of Indians that were slaughtered. You reincarnate, and you're still here, But you have to take the bodies of the people who took over, And they're European, they're Americans. Americans didn't really exist until early 1900. Imagine that. We had a civil war, for about 5 or 6 years. From 1960 to 1960, or 1860 to 1865, And it ended, And all the states came back into their place, And all this is moving forward. This is happening from 1850 all the way to 1900, And at that time, the best we've done is, oust ourselves out of countries that were biased against human beings, against civilized way of treating the average person as an equal person. How do you do that in a world like this? When you got Rajas of India, and you got emperors of China, and you got emperors of Japan, and you got kings of England and Sweden and Spain, and how is that possible that any human being would become anything less than a slave when you have those people incarnated walking around and being a part of your culture, because you're in that culture. And now, the king looks at you and says, you're my what? My servant, no matter who you are. You're not a child of God, because only a king is a child of God. And only king has the authority that God gives a king. It's the way they talk. That's how their mind goes. And that's how all the other people fall into place. And that's how the Catholic Church can come in and say, this is how this rules. The same way all the other dictators do. And that's our history. We have history. That's persecution. That's our history, So we came to America, and we gone through this whole thing, and only until 1900 did this thing start really changing. dramatically changing. Yeah, but it took a lot of us to reincarnate. So imagine the people born in 1850, and they were children, right? Children walking across, sitting in these covered wagons, being pushed across. By the time 1870 gets there, and they're still traveling because it's a 40-year cycle of this great big mission to move west. 40 years, and the West is created. Yeah. So that's a whole generation of little kids, old people, middle people, all living out their lives over this event. Yeah. And those who are left on this side are going through the Civil War. People who left to go this way, there's no Civil War. You have no direct contact with the Civil War. Yeah. So you're just the West and all the cowboys and all the experiences we have, but there are two simultaneous historical events going on at the same time. Yeah. And that's affecting us all. Yeah. Yeah. So imagine a major majority of these people are super duper assholes. Biased assholes who would enslave and hang people in their belief system of lawlessness, just like Trump. Where do these people come from? Yeah. How's it possible they can live in this day and age? This day and age? Think about it. We're just one click, away from the late 1800s, going into the 1900s. You just made it into the year 2000. Yeah. And so many things have gone on that literally wipes away our memory of reincarnating during those horrible events. Yeah, from wars to civil wars to you name it. Yeah. In reincarnation, we have, a process. No one knows Jesus is constantly redeeming because there's a plan. Yeah. And everybody in their life is living out the plan, whether they know it or not. They're living out the plan. Yeah. And that plan creates history, and it involves us in the process of Satan. It takes us out of it. And it's so big, we don't have personal choices in the matter. We're not personal choices to get into it. We don't have personal choices to get out of it. Yeah? Because God gives us will. God is the one who has the real true will. Yeah? Even giving us will means God has the will to give us will. Yeah? So that means God has all the will. Just gives us the freedom to experience the astral plane. Yeah? And once we close the astral plane, our will and God's will become so connected that we experience revelation in cooperation and co-creation of the will. Yeah? If you look through history, that's exactly what's going on. Yeah? Through the whole entire event. Yeah? So here we get to the 1900s, and we get someone like Tesla, who incarnates in the late 1800s. Yeah? And he is directly a Rinpoche. Yeah? Extremely high Rinpoche. Born in Croatia, finds himself amongst the smartest people in Europe, in his family, all wrapped around him, in his schools, in his culture, and their ability to move forward, just like, many other people from that era, yeah? And he saw in himself a vision of living in New York, yeah? He saw himself living his life in New York. So I'm out of here. As soon as I can, I'm out of here. So by the time he was 23, he had written his first and created his first invention and got things going. He became famous, and he had the ability to get out of there. Yeah. So now he's 23. He's born in 1880 something. Yeah. He dies in 1944. Yeah. So he lives 80 years. So that 80 years, 70 years of that, almost about 55 years of that is spent in America. Yeah. And it's moving the influence of spirituality into technology. Yeah. A Rinpoche who takes position in the realms of technology, way above Einstein, way above all the inventors of the time, Edison or anybody else creating radio or whatever inventions are coming off. Those are just fleeting thoughts in this man's view, because he has Buddha field. Yeah, he sees light, he understands light, he recognizes avatar reality, all these things, he's involved in his consciousness. He's involved in that. So that is radiating into why we have a radio. Why did we go from fossil fuel to electric cars? We're evolving due to incarnation and reincarnation. We were all affected by this in this previous incarnation. Yeah. Whether you're incarnated today or incarnated in your previous incarnation, your number one go-to guy was Tesla. On everything. You know, oh my God, I'm turning a light on. Oh, that's Tesla. Oh my God, I'm driving an electric car. Oh, that's Tesla. Oh my God, I'm listening to a radio. Oh yeah, that's Tesla. Oh, I'm watching TV. Oh yeah, that's Tesla. I'm in the military and we're working on radar and many other things. Oh yeah, that's Tesla. So the people of that age, you know, knew that name. Yeah, and it was everything inside of humanity. Yeah, and that level of consciousness was triggered right over to society, to where we had those technologies. We got to have a radio, we got to have telephones, yeah, we got to have television. All this as though it came from a bunch of people, but it came from Tibet. It came from Shambhala. Even though it seems like the origin comes from a human being. But if you listen to this guy, in his biography, he speaks about being a Tibetan Rinpoche. And that when he meditates with Rinpoches etherically. And that's how he gets his information. Yeah. That he knows he's directly connected to Tibet and high lamas who are seeing the same thing, and those experiences and revelations are coming as a collective understanding. Yeah. So in his biography, he talks like that. Yeah. This is something he's saying in the 30s and the 20s and the 40s. Yeah. And he's saying it to people who are, you know, like writing about this sort of stuff, engineering, technology, why is there radios, who is Edison, is Tesla better than that? Yeah. And in that process, they're getting an overflow of the fact that this man's spiritual. That's how he's getting this stuff. He doesn't know mathematics very well. He believes mathematics is God. Yeah? And that no matter where you go, 2 + 2 = 4. No matter where you go. No matter what universe you're in, no matter what planet you're on, it's all a language of God. So there's nothing to learn. It's a matter of tuning into God. And then math comes at you, and geomancy and energy and technologies and all kinds of things, because God is the mathematics inside the electron that makes manifest these ideas. Yeah, so it's working out of a plan, you know, whether we know it or not. It's working out of a plan. So on a higher side, as a human being, we had Tesla. Yeah, and now we have Tesla cars, you know, and that's because of reincarnation. I'm not saying any one of those people are the reincarnation of Tesla, but the influence of history, the historical influence of history, of bringing light in and transmitting it, you know, affects masses of people. Yeah, that's phase one. That's just phase one. He was interested in creating energies and technologies that could provide free energy, you know, which got him to a lot of trouble. Free? How can we sell it? You know, all this stuff you're saying free. Everything is free for you, you know. So he dies poor, alone, you know, mainly because he's on the other side of this thing. He's not a capitalist. Yeah, he made really bad deals in all of his technologies. Yeah, because he's not a capitalist. He's not a materialist, and he's not a mathematician. But yet, he's the guy who's behind all the engineering of today. Because all he did was show, you know, these are laws. And then once you move and evolve, those laws come into play. And they're all patented by the same guy, or written about by the same guy. Yeah. So that effect is a collective consciousness. It's a collective consciousness, yeah. So that's a phase that happened after the wild, wild west. Can you imagine that? That's a different way of looking at it, because it's the truth. It's the truth, yeah. So you're being affected by the coming of Shambhala and the creation of America, and people moving to the West and getting there under the worst of hard times. You cannot imagine the hard times they went through. You should see it. Let me show you. This is what they went through.
Immigrants' guidebooks were reassuring. Prairie navigation is simple. Merely follow the wheel ruts of the wagons which have preceded you. If you travel at the normal rate for oxen of 3 miles a day, there are enough natural beacons so that you will never need a compass. The atmosphere is so clear that landmarks like Chimney Rock will be observable for weeks before they are reached. It might have added that the immigrants, too, would be under observation. The first sight of Indians kindled fears of feathered and fiery death. For the women, a fate worse than death. The immigrants were indignant to discover that even the friendliest tribes considered them not pioneers, but trespassers. They parley only to extort outrageous tribute for grass and firewood and the loss of some game frightened by our wagons. They are friendly only so long as it serves their purpose and only if you are well armed and look resolute. How long will government tolerate these savage impediments to progress and industry? It is 3 months since we left independence. Hardship and disease have cruelly reduced our party. The aged and very young die first. The women persevere best and set a brave example. But our journey is only half made. Who of us will complete it? Where the Snake River joined the Humboldt, the trail split.
That's a lot of people.
Here they had to choose between the desert and the mountains. The high road was the shortest as the crow flies, but it was mostly eagles which tried it, and the clumsy, top-heavy wagons which struggled to reach the passes before they were wintered in. They had to hurry to beat the first snow, and to avoid the fate of the Donner Party, 45 of whom survived only by eating the bodies of the 36 who didn't. Over the Wind Rivers, the Bitterroots, the Wasatch, the Panamints, the High Sierras, beyond every mountain, it seemed, there was another mountain. But if there was danger in the mountains, there was no safety at sea level. One traveler wrote of the desert trails, it was as though the hand of death had been laid upon the country. Where it was Apache country, death had a few extra hands. We have just learned that the party ahead of us has nearly perished of thirst, and there is one behind us carrying the smallpox. It is more than 100 degrees of heat. Truly we are traversing hell with the fires banked. It is milestoned with what once were precious belongings. But such sentiments are too burdensome for exhausted horses. Our map promised that at this place we could find good grass and water, but it lied. The grass was poisonous and the spring was dry. Another company had traveled 80 miles without water, then almost drowned in a cloudburst. Their stock stampeded and their wagons, the wood desiccated in the heat, fell apart. Our cattle sickened on the water and foundered and had to be left behind. But ours was not the only loss. Dead animals averaged 100 to the mile. And an emigrant's diary said there are about 80 graves to the 100 miles, that is, new ones. Each of these marked the high water point of somebody's hopes. All of them strung together marked the trail for others, just as hopeful, to follow. In the great getting there were no failures. They all put down their roots in the new land, even these.
That's 1850, yeah, to 1890, yeah, 40 years. And then from 1890, we got the automobile, we got the motorcycle, we got industry, we got creation of industry, we got the creation of industry toward farming, yeah, the cotton mills, and so many other things were being devised through industry, yeah, because we were moving as a soul, as a collective soul, we're moving through an evolutionary leap. And we have to go from caveman, yeah, all the way to where we're at today. That takes quite a leap, quite a leap. We've got to get to the point to where we're breaking stones, you know, and then we realize, oh, hot, melt. We see it in a fire, it melts, turns into two different things. It gets lead, or we get copper, we get these things. It takes time, takes technique, development of technology. And your senses have to become aware of it, you know. If you're constantly afraid, you know, oh, fire, oh, you know, then, you know, it takes a while to get past that, to dig through it and go, whoa, what's that? What's that? You know, well, that's not so hot. That's not so hot, you know. And then you realize, you know, wow, look at this, you know. And it's pliable. Ooh, I can make things with that. Make a knife a lot easier, lasts a lot longer, yeah, than a rock, a shaving of a rock, yeah, which is where they were at. From stone to metal, yeah, copper period, the Bronze period. We have histories that are based on evolution of technology. And technology is the evolution of our lower body developing our senses. Yeah? The 7 rays. And each one of our senses are directly connected to our ability to develop sensory perception. Yeah? And we need to be able to perceive outside of ourselves, which gives us creative thought form building, inventing. You know, things that aren't, but yet they become. Yeah? And how they usually get there is through struggle, hardship. So something is actually helping to create the energy behind the soul. Yeah? Central spiritual sun. Yeah? And it's inside of everything. You know? So we live our life to go through shit, trauma, hardship, you know, not knowing to almost knowing, you know, to at least understanding, and to put it into effect, fixing, yeah, and make things better, yeah. And you got 50 million people in the United States. How are you going to feed them? Industry is very important, yeah. It's either that or we just stop having babies, you know. And we let everybody survive on their own. Skip industry. We won't make that leap. It's compassion that made that leap. Yeah, it's understanding on a mass level. Yeah, all this happened before. That's how we got the pyramids built. That's how we got all the temples built. That's how we built all mass major civilizations in previous cycles of time. Yeah, and as those were developed, it included temples. Building of temples, energy vortexes, yeah, areas to enhance the soul, the very thing that our hardship is bringing about, which is soul. Harmony through conflict. If we can get through a process, what seems to be hard, but we get through it, and the more that we learn, you know, as we're doing it, you know, then we're adding to our next life. We have no idea what it is that is a bigger problem in our future life that doesn't even turn out to become manifested. Because in this life, we're doing things that are just things that we're moved to do. Yeah. And the more we move toward higher levels of telepathy or caring or sharing or, ways of creating a better ecological life, and living more in minimalism, but yet not afraid of technology and advancements and all the things, everything, having a very wholesome reality to it. Yeah. That's how we manifest our next future. Yeah. We're in a totally different era. Yeah. Where before we had to go walking all the way across the United States, and at the same time, it gave enough soul to raise up the light inside of humanity to realize you can't treat people like this. That's the soul that's doing that, saying that in masses of people who are also back east, who are still living there and going through this horrible event of a group of people actually separating from the United States. They separated. I mean, if you know what that means, it's like militants of the worst kind. It's like a dictator walking in and saying, no, we're taking over the United States and we're going to run it in a totally different way. Yeah. And we're going to include slavery, and we're going to include, real bad ways. Yeah. So the whole influence that's there is an influence that's from the past, a darker side of the past. It's not cleared in our mass collective karma yet. So it still exists. Yeah. So it's got to show its head. It's got to show itself. Yeah. Because it still exists. It's the collective consciousness that clears it. It heals it because it doesn't agree. Yeah. And slowly but surely, that negative process becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, and then it has a healing crisis. Yeah. And it throws itself into its own fit. And then has its own self-realization. How did I ever get to thinking like that? Yeah. What made me do that? Yeah. It may take a generation, a second generation for that to happen, but it slowly but surely happens. Yeah. And that's the outcome. That's the outcome of the whole world. Yeah. It doesn't matter what the scenario is, doesn't matter where the circumstance is. It's the reality is that we're being evolved into our senses of enlightenment. Yeah. And in order to get to that, we need to increase that enlightenment onto the planet. Yeah. Increase it. It's like me putting out the tools, and me putting out meditations, or me giving teachings. Yeah. That's to increase the light on the planet. Yeah. So my interest is I see a future in this planet. I see the future of the planet of people literally taking minimalism as a process of their own initiative. Yeah, this is how they feel. This is their conscience. This is what they're doing. And then that gets them through the probationary path. And it clears up what keeps them from realizing they can make a difference in the world if they go full on. And they take on the consideration of becoming enlightened. Yeah, not just another nice human being, not just a nice guy, but a freaking saint. A saint. A walking, living, talking saint. Yeah? And staying within that light at all times, under the auspiciousness of Christ. Yeah? Because we got all kinds of people out there claiming to be priests and nuns and things, and they, in the Catholic Church, they all have the opportunity to become a saint once they die, because they're in that church. Just simply because they're in that church. Not because they're a saint, but because they're in that church. Yeah? And it's not a true reality. Yeah? True reality is that if we are really under the anointed reality in the transfiguration of these next scenarios between now and 2050, then 2050, yeah, on to 2000. Imagine 2100, yeah. When we move into that particular period of time, our technologies will be at least at a point to where I can explain what it is Tesla was talking about when it comes to free energy and how the planet stores within itself free energy. Yeah. Now, human beings have so much energy inside themselves. They can light up a car or their house and drive just on the energy that comes out of their body. Yeah. By increased meditative skills. Yeah. And that can be harnessed in a technological way. So that the person doesn't go, move car, you know. But the car taps into the person. Just like going onto a battery connection. We are a battery connection. We need to allow ourselves to be received and just continue our transmission. What we're doing all the time. We're receiving energy out of the earth. We're manifesting prana, you know, but we have no real reason to generate more than what we're using right here. Yeah. But our mind and our body and our spirit is completely capable of generating enough electricity to run many houses simultaneously, drive cars simultaneously. You know, when we get to the technology of cars being able to levitate and go where they need to go, but we can't do it because we can't house enough electricity in the vehicle. Well, once we learn this technology, we have no limitation of electricity. We don't need solar, you know, we don't need wind generators. We don't need all of that stuff. Yeah. But it's an evolution of the senses. Yeah. We have to do these many things that are material, like minimalism and high energy of technology and all that, in order to learn. Then once we learn that, we gain more and more synthesis into the area where we're being drawn. We have no idea where we're being drawn. Yeah. Yeah. Because you look at the past, you know, look at that 40-year period of cowpokes. And that's the only time they really existed. After that, they were driving Jeeps. Yeah. Look at Dale Evans and Roy Rogers. You know, during the time of their cowboy period, you know, and their TV series, they had a freaking Jeep. You know, so it was a crossover of the 1890s to the 1910s and the 1920s. You know, so it went very quickly from horse to horsepower, you know, and we just reincarnated and continued the same thought forms. Yeah. So all these people that are get up and go and ready to move to the east and everything are people who really do want to get in a vehicle and get out and go someplace and go do things because it's in their spirit to do that sort of thing. Yeah. That's their reincarnation. Yeah. But what if that reincarnation turns into later on at another level in a second initiation, you know, where the person literally becomes a profound healer? That means they literally have to stop and give. You know, they have to do pujas, they have to meditate, they have to do prayers, they have to eat properly. Yeah. They have to do all those things, and it needs to be directly under the guidance of a higher reality. Yeah, like making these forms. Yeah, there's no place else in the world, you know, you're going to get the opportunity to do this sort of thing. But when you connect in on, your karma goes monad. Yeah, and the world is saved in less than 10 years because your karma went monad. Yeah. Now you could be cooking in the kitchen at the fry cook, you know, or you could be mowing lawns for $5 a day or anything. Yeah. But trust me, you are not in the vibration of the monad. These monastic opportunities happen in the monastic level. Yeah. And then and we will build monasteries. And it's going to take a lot of people to build profound monasteries that I have to design and engineer and explain. Yeah? And it's going to require profound service to go into those areas. Yeah? And you can't just start building monasteries, hiring people, contractors and stuff, build monasteries. You know, you just can't do it. You know, it's got to be done when that time's right. When people become monks and nuns, then those monks and nuns have to be the ones who move into those monasteries So there's no building of a monastery until there's monks and nuns who move into the monastery. Yeah, just how it works. That's dharma. Yeah, so we're in an evolutionary process of jumping from the astral plane of the desire body. Yeah, we have all of our history is based on the desire body. Every single thing is based on the desire body. If we look at any movie, if we look at everything, it's based on either you're shooting someone or chasing someone or you're corruption or you're this or that or you're falling in love or you're going aboard a spaceship or all these things, but they're all of the desire body. They have nothing to do with what is going on. Yeah, what's going on out there? What's going on, really? Yeah. And what is going on is that we have to understand our past to better understand our present. Yeah? And unless we have a clear image of the past, and that the past is literally under the power of Jesus Christ. Literally, he has people who represent him, or they're with him, or influenced by the outcome of him, and then it could be seen in the next cycle of the next group of incarnations. Yeah? And it goes all the way back to the past. And you can go hundreds of thousands of years, if not 1,000,000 years, into the past and see the same evolutionary cycle. But then it gets wiped out. Yeah? It mainly gets wiped out because the number of population continues growing. And the number of nuns and monks do not. Yeah. So we start getting Armageddon. Armageddon is created by people not taking the decision in the probationary path to enter priesthood. Yeah. And they just don't do it. They pass it off to someone else. Oh, you should do it. You're good for that, you know. You can probably live without and do all those kind of things. And you have no idea what the priesthood is about until you actually enter into it. Yeah. Yeah, because there are 3 initiations that are involved, and each initiation has to do with lifting humanity up. Yeah? Creating a new karmic envelope over a 10-year cycle of time. Yeah? And you can fully develop a whole lot in a 40-year cycle of time. Yeah? I did that in 51 all the way to the year 2000, you know, and I manifested a whole new world. You know, you were supposed to be dead and gone many times by the year 2000, and then by the year 2011 or something like that, you know, the sun was supposed to stop, and Mayan calendar was supposed to come, and, you know, all this stuff, and everything just kind of went and gone. You know, people went to the mountaintops and waited for ships to come and take them away, and, you know, and we're still here. Everything's still the same, yeah. Yeah, because there's the closing of the door of the astral plane is taking place. Yeah, and it's happening on the monadic plane. Yeah, and it's happening behind the scene because there's not a lot of people involved in this process, this project. Yeah, and it's a long-term project. Yeah, it's not a short-term project. It's not like I do this for a couple of years and then I go on to something else. You know me. You know, this is all I've ever done. As a child, all the way to today. It's all I've ever done. And if you look at that past of history, if you follow any of my history, you see that I do exactly the same thing throughout history. So I'm turning the wheel of dharma, during times of cycles of energy, life, And whether or not people are tapping into that is whether or not we're actually going up, So we went through a very violent process of destruction on this earth. Very violent, many, many thousands of years ago. You can see it through earthquakes. You can see it through mass explosion on the earth from becoming of either a comet or a very large asteroid. It hit, and it effectively destroyed a lot. And so there was also volcanoes disrupting the earth and wiping things away. So whatever was happening at that time ended. And 10 to 15 to 20,000 years passed before people started regrouping and manifesting again, almost starting from Stone Age, figuring out how to make stones and how to melt copper, what we call the copper period or this or that. When in reality, it's just times where we've been wiped out. And we have nothing to go by. But if we study our anthropology and our history, we go back and we find that there are many people who lived and carried, shoes 1,000,000 years ago, and had hammers 1,000,000 years ago, and drew airplanes 50,000 years ago, even at the Great Pyramid. There's airplanes drawn, as though it was normal. There were helicopters drawn, designed, perfect helicopter. How's that possible? It's because we have many cycles, and it's all due to our karma as whether or not we recapitulate. Because we've done this before. And as from where I see things, we are moving into a place of a quickening, a great potential quickening. I don't build a monastery like this, offer tools like this during my lifetime. I usually sit in Tibet, and fight for tukus, fight for the right to reincarnate and not be harassed during your incarnation. That's what I've been doing for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, But now I'm forced to be in this situation because we have a dark lodge that is completely manifested, and they're the very things that created our civil war in America. And that literally separated America, and it got people to be bigots, and it got people to hate different races and immigrants. Number one, immigrants, So immigrants, for all these people, it's all about that. We can't have immigrants. We're Americans, and yet they're not Americans. They're Germans, they're Italians, they're Swedes, they're English, but they're not Americans. And that doesn't mean only Native Americans have a right. It just means let's tell the truth. You're bigots. And that's all that is, just bigots. And you want the same thing that happened in the Civil War. That's why the president says, I don't see why we needed the Civil War, because the way it was going to be is the way it should be, which meant the Confederacy, the carrying of the right to carry arms, the right to do things to people like kill people if they do wrong, and put them in prison for longer periods of time and torture them. Nothing to do with anything from the evolved place that we as humanity have a right to be. We have a right to be that. So these are just old past life karmic values, that are inside of America. And if we build, I've come, and I'm building and establishing, because over the history of this nation, souls have come to this continent and walked across the United States. Souls, real souls, high degree initiates. And then they reincarnate and they find themselves in Silicon Valley, they find themselves in San Francisco, find themselves in LA, find themselves all over the place. And they're having an enormous awakening, creating Apple or all kinds of things to bring about mass change in the world. And it's something that's a calling more than anything else, because these are needs, and it's serving a need. We didn't have laptops, but laptops are necessary. We will not get to the moon unless we have a computer. So all these things were forced into the mind of consciousness from the monad, through the soul, into the personality, and it came out the way it did. So we're that. That's our influence. But we're not the end of that. The main influence of this process is the year 2050. If we can get people to move from, oh, look, I've got a Vajra, really get really a lot of energy from that, things like that, and get them to go to the place to where they realize Jesus Christ is reincarnated. All the fables must go away. And you have to come out of fantasy land and put your feet on the earth and walk with Christ. Yeah. And that will happen for every life. Yeah. And if it happens, yeah, then saints will come walking in. If not, then no saints will come walking in. None. Not one. It will go to a state of inertia. And imagine there's 10,000 potential monks and nuns. And 15 of them decide, I don't feel like it. 10,000 will not go. Because it's a group who made that agreement on the way in and will not change that agreement just to benefit themselves. They will wait till the last 15 stragglers finally come aboard. And then we move. And that's how it works. You know, it's a tough world, yeah, because we're not in a collective consciousness. We're in a place where we have independent free will, and that independent free will moves us away from making decisions that allows us to not, I mean, it'd be great if we saw the vision of the future and saw that no children die. No children die. What just happened? No children are dying anymore. What just happened? All the saints put their feet on the earth and made a commitment and began serving. Now, 15 to 20 years later, after they put their feet on the earth, and by that time, things are changing dramatically, you know, because millions of people are becoming aware that Jesus Christ is physically incarnated. They're seeing him in vision through the thousands of new monks and nuns. Yeah, because they're seeing it. And they've made commitment. And that commitment alters the reality of the next phase of 100,000 or 1,000,000 who are now going to take probationary path and move into the first initiation and have many cycles of revelations in time and space that moves them to the point to where they're a third degree initiate. Yeah. So all of our future history, our future, is really under the will of God. One day. Yeah. Right now, it is under free will. Yeah. Because most people cannot take that sixth ray and turn it into a second ray. They can't do it. Yeah, the sixth ray is too strong. Yeah, it's too dependent upon personal belief systems. So then that means one starts off with a lower mind. They start off with lower emotions. That means that they'll have less reverence. Even though they have reverence, they haven't instilled reverence yet. Yeah, so that means they have less reverence. You won't have it until you instill it. And then once it's in there and it comes back to you, you start getting the experience because it's a ramification of reverence. Once you have it, it comes back to you. Yeah, and that changes you. And that makes you a monk or a nun. Your inner reverence is what makes you a monk or a nun. Yeah, you know, so, but that's a really hard one because you got to get rid of the sixth ray to allow the second ray to be your truth. Yeah. And that has to be everything. And the second ray is a monk or nun. There's the life of a human being is a life of a monk or nun. And any other life is sixth ray. You know, so, and it will lead you into all the alternatives you can possibly imagine to the ashram. All the, from witchcraft to sex magic to money magic, every single thing that leads to a glamour comes in and finds the weakness in the person who can't make those directives with their heart. Because the heart is the strength, the heart is loyalty, the heart is the ability, yeah, to see and understand and then carry forth, yeah. You know, so we will always have, you know, leading forces that come from people like Trump, yeah, and influence people's lower nature, yeah, and that affects our history, yeah, the presence of our history. Like, what if everybody comes up with more and more of these stupid flags? You know, let's keep the process of victory with the South. and the worship of civil war, and the possibility of a militia. Let's get rid of these people who are against the American way. All of us white Americans, and that whole process is the ending, of the influence that comes up from each one of those unhealthy rays. Has words and expressions and behavior, so they all come out like that. And once more people are able to establish their second ray and bring it into that, they radiate out, the alternative. Because the thing is that we don't have an alternative. We have people that are in between the second ray and the sixth ray, They're like swaying back and forth, second ray, sixth ray, second ray, sixth ray, And in doing that, they're in the state of inertia. There's their spiritual empowerment, which doesn't really happen until the third initiation, can't really take place, So, but it comes from people who try, and the people who try do make it to the third initiation. And if that's 10 or 20, 18, 30, that effectively hits tens of thousands of people who can't make it through the first initiation. Because it's the third degree initiate who went through all it takes to get to that, raises everybody else up through their trials and tribulations. Every step of the ladder, every, hardship that you go through. Then as we go down the line, and more people start making the commitment, then all of a sudden, their future life, when they are a third degree initiate, begins overshadowing them. And that's what happens when you actually begin making that commitment, when you put yourself in that position, because now you're not only around geometric forms, but you're in Shambhala, you're in activity, you're in actions and activity. And you get into the inner world of the working out of evil, and it becomes more clarity of yourself, and that radiates out into the rest of humanity. And it's not your enlightenment that you're carrying, you're receiving the enlightenment that's coming from the plan, and the plan is way ahead, way in the future. It's just a matter of working out that plan, as to how clear people can see. So imagine we're in the year 2020 and entering the year 2021. So we have 30 years until the year 2050. And all the shit kicking went on over a 40-year period, and a lot was done. And I was born in 50, and by the time of the year 2000, I was enthroned, and that meant the whole of the world was able to witness a Buddha and allow a Buddha to sit on a throne on earth. Even if it was a small band of people, it still happened. That's almost impossible. So by the year 2000, I have moved a completely non-spiritual pagan world, into receiving Jesus Christ by the year 2000. And here they were ready for Armageddon, nuclear war, all the things that you can possibly imagine, end of everything, and it doesn't happen. So now we're going to move into another phase, into the next process, and that process it can move major portions of humanity, through a process of being able to receive the first, second, and third initiation, which is so difficult because in previous lives, you'd be fighting up against the first, second, and third initiation because in no previous life had you had a first or second or third initiation. It couldn't be done. Tyranny would be too much. Hitler would be too busy. All the activities in the world would not foster you to do that. Even the Dalai Lama came along and screwed up Tibet, so you couldn't be in Tibet and have that go on. So there was really no place until I came. And then I straightened out the seat and made it possible for the seat to begin having the incarnations of the tukus and the saints, who are real true saints, And they got to walk through me. They got to come through me. They got to be blessed through me. Then they go back and walk again. Yeah. And out of that, they change completely from being a dogmatic Tibetan monk to being a real good person, a really good, highly evolved person. Yeah. So all of that by the year 2000, and now we're into the year 2021. Yeah. That means that there's an enormous number of tukus from the year 2000 to now that have been fostered, fed, their families taken care of, their monasteries rebuilt, their life restored. Yeah. Despite what the Dalai Lama was saying and doing, I was standing on the other side saying, I will still be here unless I'm not. And I still am, so let's have faith in that. Yeah. And everything grew. Yeah. In ways that we can't really understand. You know? So by the time we get to the year 2025, here we have Trump. Yeah. There's no way he's going to be invited to be president again for another 4 years. So if that happens, then we have the ongoing process of transmission from the initiations that quickens everywhere. The United States, the world, the emphasis of war in China or Iraq or Iran or anywhere where any of that is happening. It will change dramatically over a 5-year period. Yeah. And in that time, I externalize. Yeah. And I become much more open. I'm open in the government. I'm open in many governments. I'm open, at the United Nations where I'm speaking. Within 5 years, that will be taking place. And that's only because there's people who are going to make commitments between now and 5 years. Yeah. And that makes it possible for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people, young right now, who are 14 and 15 years old, who are destined to become monks and nuns. There's nothing that they can do in life. They're destined. All they need is their fellow elder ones, who are just maybe 10 or 15 years older than that, to get stabilized, because they're this is hundreds of thousands of people holding on to everybody, and everybody's one person. Yeah, one person. And if anybody's weak within that, it makes it very difficult for the whole of everybody to make it. And we got young children, really young children right now coming to make a long life of commitment. Starting at 18, 19 years old, they're going to be monks and nuns. Yeah, and they're going to be freaking profound, in their active service and their ability to break through stuff and understand and get things moving. To the point to where we have monasteries growing. We have people supporting and funding. Yeah, we have a whole new area of life that'll come about. And that's only in 5 years. But that's only under the process of my externalization, and the externalization of the hierarchy. Monks, nuns, things like that, yeah. So it's difficult. So that's why at this time I'm focusing on helping with prayer. Focusing on helping you with the process of redeeming, because you have no idea in hardships. When you make a relationship, in any relationship, you're either making a relationship with Christ or you're not. Yeah. And in a spiritual world, right relationship is the first initiation. Yeah. So that's why I'm talking about, in the future, people will take more commitment toward right relationship. Yeah. But right now, I'm going to help by giving you a prayer to break your relationship that makes it impossible for you to become a monk or a nun. Yeah. And, in your mind, you just want to be a better person. You just don't want Satan in your life anymore. That's all you want. But that isn't what your soul wants. Your soul would be a piece of shit if that's all it wanted. And it's not. It's spiritual. It's divine. It seeks God. And it seeks to heal and save people. And it has enormous empathy toward the need for change. Yeah? So there's an influence, on higher order, monadically, that is moving into humanity that's really difficult to bring about a lot of energy into. So the prayer is set for that reason. It's just to confront, here I am. So I start off the prayer, I say, repeat after me. Thank me for bringing you here. And that's a part of getting you to realize I brought you here. Now, once that happens, how do you believe you're not a monk or a nun? How do you believe that? Now, Satan inside of you is making you do that. And it's relationships that bring that in. You can only sever your relationship with Satan if you take one relationship with Christ. Just one relationship. That's it. One relationship. And then you let it go. You let life happen. You move into it, but you do not take other relationships. It's like when you become a monk or a nun, that means you don't work at Burger King. You don't take other relationships. You're taken care of. Forever. Forever. For all your needs. Forever. And you can't get your head around that. It's a big thing. And it's an offering of process that allows you to be in the group of saints that begin flooding the earth. And that allows people to begin getting hit by that. People who are going to vote here soon. People who you can change, but you'll do it in the future. But by you making commitment today and getting this out of you and making your fulfillment in this commitment, then it allows people who are so far from any relationship to their soul that they are one mono with Satan in every way. They'll take lies and they will say lies. They cannot discern or discriminate if their life depended on it. They can't. They need saving. They need saving. And we can't just say, vote differently. It takes commitment. And if people start making that commitment, then they'll see that there are people who have made a commitment to Satan that no longer have the power to hold that commitment. And now that they've learned how to release, like I give this prayer, and you go, well, how it worked for me is that this prayer really helped out. And these video tapes, listen on the TV every night, and, take a Vajra, if you haven't got one, I'll give you a Weaver, but make a difference. And every time that moves into other people's lives, then it immediately changes your opposite spectrum. Imagine you got people of all kinds of hate, war, everything, things that you are not. But you are the person who can change them because you're not. They need frequency. They need to be beaten out. Just by you're the one who makes the commitment, you're the one who sees it, you're the one who wills yourself into right relationship. And that literally, slowly but surely, wills all the people following Satan into right relationship. They can't help it because it's the nature of the Holy Spirit. When people, to become a nun or a monk, it's not something out of nature. It's actually something you're doing with nature. But it's not until you're pretty spiritually evolved do you make a commitment with nature, because that's when you're enlightened and you have strong respect toward that nature. And now that nature and you are more like one, and you're allowing the nature to become your guidance. And it's a higher nature. It's Buddha nature. So there isn't anything that won't change in this world, over the next, between now and the year 2050. I mean, anything. You know, our relationship to fossil fuel, our relationship to nuclear weapons, our relationship to having people incarnated and being pedophiles and then find out about it, and here we raved on how they were such great people, you know. Trust me, all that will be cleared out of your experience. And you'll have whole other different experiences coming in that have to do with Jesus Christ is incarnated at a mass level. Yeah, on a mass level, you know. It's not about exodus. It's about enlightenment. Yeah. So it's really about everybody getting the freedom to find out the truth and receive redemption and become saved and make a better world. Yeah. Yeah. So that's the movement, that from reincarnation, from all the things that we've done in the past, that's why we did it. You know, is to get us these senses, our sensory abilities. Yeah. Right now we've got a telephone that's a computer. We've got cars that are electric and drive themselves. You know, our technology has really risen. Yeah. Which means there is light inside of it, and light is moving with it. Yeah. And the influence of our abilities to move with a healing way, you know, are dramatically going to rise up, you know, inside of humanity. Where in the past, it's been one Trump after another, one Hitler, 5 Hitlers, Mussolinis, all at once, you know, all this, so many, one after another, yeah? And that really keeps you from having the experience of what I'm talking about. You know, it really deadens it. It creates all kinds of problems to come. And with Trump in this and these kind of words that go on, and us having, you know, a coronavirus and all that's going on, you know, how can you possibly hear these words? Yeah? It completely drains it out. Yeah? Despite, here I am, you know, despite here I'm healing Tibet, despite here I'm, you know, all these things, you know, but it's this rhetoric of lying and delusion and illusion and confusion by people who are the opposites of monks and nuns. Yeah. And they will not protect God. They will try to kill God. They will try and destroy the belief system behind Jesus. Yeah. They will use it against you. You know, like claiming that Trump is chosen. You know, come on. And then all these people follow, you know. Why? Because there's not enough monks and nuns to tell everybody I'm incarnated. And there's going to be another Antichrist in 2 years. Another one. Who is much more powerful than Trump. And he's going to begin an externalization in 2 years. Yeah. And he's profoundly acceptable. A kind of person that he hasn't been a pedophile, and all these things that, you know, really make you question whether or not this person's a good guy. Yeah, there's a whole other very dark influence making manifest into the externalization, simply because there is such a slow rate of spirituality in development. Despite me putting all this out and everything, it's holding its own in its own way, maintaining its own in its own way. Yeah, doing everything but being, you know, inefficient. Right now, it's highly effective. Yeah, but recognition and seeing symbology through enlightenment and change through enlightenment is really the effect of the purpose of what we're doing here. Yeah, and this process that we're in is, we have Trump, and Trump is raging with insanity. He's causing militia. All these things are going on, and people are nuts and coming out. You know, that's Antichrist. Yeah. So it's not the only Antichrist that exists. Sai Baba was an Antichrist. Michael Jackson was an Antichrist. Yeah. And every Antichrist that comes, you're never in a state of discernment, discrimination to know that they came and went. You know, so you're just impure. Does that make sense? They defile you. Yeah? Because you can't discern, discriminate, and you cannot not let them in. Yeah? So people start thinking, oh, I'm like Trump, or I like to be like Michael Jackson, or maybe I am like those sort of things. And it's not. It hasn't anything to do with it. It has to do with the fact that they're on the earth and they're defiling the energy. And you are energy, and you can pick that energy up, yeah, and it confuses you. It deludes you. It makes you confused. It shouldn't be even existing on the planet, you know, so you need to get rid of it. You know, these people aren't going to, you know, take a pill and get rid of it the next day. They're not going to do that, not until the day they die, and it's not going to be at least till 3 years after their death that the energy recedes. It starts receding. Yeah, because that's just how it works. Impurity and processes of spirit remain. Yeah, so you can imperil a house, you can imperil a bank, you can imperil land, you can imperil an object. Yeah, as long as these people are alive in every place they go, the White House is being imperiled right now, so it will remain imperiled for a long time. And anybody who goes in there is going to have to go through a lot of psychic processes to bring themselves to their soul, because he's so strong in the process of being a manipulative demon. Yeah, it's not him. It's just that he houses allowing demons to surround him. And then they imperil everything he looks at, he touches. He imperils the doctors to become liars. He imperils people to the point to where they can't lie, so they have to quit. But he keeps imperiling. He keeps imperiling. Yeah. Every single person, every single thing, no matter where he goes, he has to stand at the edge of the White House and talk like Mussolini and imperil the world because they can't control him. He is Lucifer standing there, and you put him there because there's hardly any monks and nuns on this planet. So that's just the way it is. Yeah. And in 2 years, it's not an electoral person, it's not a political person who's the next Antichrist. It's a totally other person, one that you will not expect, and one will begin the channeling immediately within 2 years and become fully embodied as an Antichrist, because it's a calling. Just like if you become spiritual, you know, you take on the infused light of God. If you become Antichrist, you take on Satan's energy and incarnate as Satan. And you don't have much to do with it. I mean, it's just happening. And this is our next cycle, our next one that you're going to have to deal with. And this one really wants some badass things to happen. You know, a lot of things will be done behind the scene. You won't even know, you know, the event, because Donald Trump was out in the open, you know, trying to recruit people, you know, to manifest more and more vices and slowly but surely become, you know, a very angry mob-like scenario in the United States. That was his goal, you know, to create hate and hostility and aggression. But this person just wants to create an anti-spiritual reality. Anti-spiritual. Ain't no God. Period. No God. Yeah. And that influence goes out over books and over, you know, media and over influence. You know, that becomes big. Yeah. And you're going to be looking for God, and you're not going to find it. Yeah. Because the churches are going to go like, oh no, we're busted. Now you can't go to the Catholic Church, and it's all just coming out. You know, so the next phase is to destroy God on earth, where you can go to be with God, who you could trust to be with God, anything like that. The worst of the possible Antichrist, the very thing to keep people from becoming monks and nuns. Yeah. Yeah, so that's going to hit, and it's going to come and become very strong, yeah, and it'll come within 2 years, and it'll begin its complete manifestation, and it all depends on this other process of these children, and the people who are already incarnated young already know that they're born to become monks and nuns. There's not anything else in their life, you know. They're not going to be an engineer or something, you know, and that there's not just a calling, But this is something they knew before they got here. So as a child, it's easy. It's like having your past life come back and remind you when you're a child. It's easier. As you get older, you forget those things. Yeah. But a lot of times, sometimes your past life could be that you met Jesus. And I want to continue that relationship. Maybe I wasn't sure, but if it's possible, I'm coming in, and I'm going to take that. And that's the way the world is moving right now. There are hundreds of thousands of children that have all received etheric weavers and pendants, and all, old people who've received and died and are reincarnating, So over this next 5 years, the larger numbers of these who are 13 and 14 become 20. And it's at that time that you make that commitment. You make that decision. It's right around 21. But there's people, places, and things that keeps you from pulling it off. And you have no idea that, Satan exists. And tolerance keeps you in the league of Satan's misunderstanding. Not being able to see clearly because of tolerance, because of many, many, many things that go on in the world that make you have wrong relationships, and not take the right one. So let's do this prayer, and then I'm gonna I'm gonna go back to the 7 rays, the invocation of the 7 rays. I'm gonna play that, and that's one that you watch. So just enjoy. So just imagine God is everything. Everything. Ants, people, trees, rocks, planets, everything. So when you make this prayer, think of the vastness of God. And that if you know that God is everything, then you have to know you pray with God. You're praying with everything. You're what you ask of God, you're asking for everything. So it's not, I'm God's son. I was firstborn. Doesn't make me special, but it makes me fully enlightened, and it makes me completely connected to God, just like this prayer. That's why I'm given in the title of the prayer for you to enter in and allow me to take what I have in me as God and move that into you. And by me doing that, you become a monk or a nun. There's not another way. It's what I said to the disciples. It's what I'll say to anybody, because it's the truth. The reaction to me is that you become a monk and a nun. That's the reaction. And it's you don't have to do anything. I do it. But the process is that you need to allow me into your life. So to do that, you have to understand that I'm the one pulling the strings. If you ask me into your life, now I'm pulling the strings. And you don't mess with that. And you're really lucky because you can actually get a phone call. You can actually hear my words. I can look at you and you can look at me, and I can get you through this like lightning speed. Beyond your wildest imagination. Because I don't have to deal with your inhibitions, and I don't have to deal with your trivial processes of, this is what you'd rather do. But you're allowing the psychic energy to move through you, and in doing that, we start coming into a vision. And you're good where you're at. You're good. Yeah. And you may live really long and start getting younger and freaky. Yeah. More beautiful. Younger. Gentler. Softer. Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm in you. That's what happens. Imagine you marry someone. Yeah. They make you a better person. Well, that's what I do. Yeah. I merge. It's the same thing. Yeah. It's tantra. It's not sex. It's merging. Yeah. And I have this ability to become one with anything and everything. Yeah. And if you come to understand that, you enter into the ashram of why this earth is created the way it is, under the image that it is. Yeah. And then you become one with that. Yeah. And you become a co-creator to that. And a monk and a nun becomes a million times more powerful than the average person. Yeah. Because they live so much longer. So much longer. One day, in the life of a monk or a nun, in one day, is like 4 or 5 weeks in the average person. Their day. 4 weeks, 4 days, 4 whole weeks. Bam, 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 bam. It goes on and on and on. And the experiences that they got out of that, if any of it was good, and you add it all up, that is experienced in one day. Yeah. So now, instead of having to live in 14 weeks or 14 days or long periods of time to get that little bit of energy, you get that energy in one day. Now you're moving light speed through life rather than, wow, that was a hard month. Woo, that was a hard year, But as a monk or a nun, they go by like nothing. Yeah, like they don't exist. What day is it? What week is it? What time is it? I have no idea. It's like being high all the time. Yeah, because you're in an altered state. Yeah, and in that altered state, your feet are connected to the ongoing actions of the whole of the world. Yeah, so you don't feel like you're inadequate or you're not getting anything done or that, you can't get something done. Yeah, because so many millions of people in the world are fostering my move of getting everything done, yeah, and moving forward. And that's what a monk and nun feels more than the average person. The average person finds, I still got to go to work and I still got to do this. And, you can hardly, in one little tiny bit, a day, that's like crazy. Yeah. So entering into the light, allowing the light to actually absorb you, is what goes on. Yeah. So when I say I invite you to come inside, save my life, receive me today, I'm a child of God. Yeah. That means that this is the cycle where rebirth begins. Yeah. And whether or not I'm in the person is whether or not the person is in their heart. Yeah. Because that's the only place I go. I don't go to your solar plex and fix your problems. I don't go to your physical body and fix your problems. I don't go to your mind and answer your questions. Yeah. I go to your heart. Yeah. And I just sit there. And I don't say anything. I'm just sitting there. And that's me. That's me 24/7. And that's what I am. And then that's what I am when I get inside you. So you start becoming like that. Calmer. Yeah. More sensitive, but not insensitive. Yeah. All the different things that radiate out of the 7 rays can come out of your heart. So you don't have to worry about straightening out your chakras or any of that, because it's all from the heart. So that's what happens when anybody can get Jesus to come into their body. Yeah. That's why I give etheric weavers, vajras, put this music into your ears, and let me in your body. Yeah? Put this weaver over you. Let me in your body. Yeah? Now, other people, that would sound like weird. You want what? You want to get in my body? What? That ain't happening. It's got to happen. It's the only thing that can happen, Yeah. So this is really, it's me doing little things. Oh, have some sugar, Oh, now would you like to try my etheric weaver? Oh, okay. You want some more sugar? Would you like to, smell a flower? You calm now? You feel better? Now you want to try my etheric weaver? It's a slow process to get people to move from very dense material world to a very ethereal angel that they are. You got to, all these things do change if you take me in, and then all of a sudden your world becomes the kingdom of God, and you're a child of God. Cool. Made that up. That was pretty good. Okay, let's pray. Okay, repeat after me. Lord Jesus the Christ, thank you for bringing me here. Lord Jesus the Christ, I open my heart today. I invite you to come inside. Come inside, Lord Jesus the Christ, and save my life. Receive me today as a child of God. Forgive all my sins and write my name in the book of life. I give myself to you, my spirit, my soul, my body. Receive me, Jesus the Christ. Now, devil, the blood of Jesus the Christ is against you. I command you now to leave me. I do not belong to you. I am God's property. Leave my life. I disassociate myself with you. I renounce every evil covenant I have entered in with you. In the name of Jesus the Christ, I have received salvation. I am a child of God. Amen. Trust me, that works. Okay, now we're going to do a meditation. You need to watch the video. I invoke the power, the love, and the wisdom of your ashram, soul, and monad. Activity in the plan. seventh ray. To your sacral center. The alignment of the second ray to your heart center. I invoke the alignment of the sixth ray to your solar plexus. The light of the Christ within. I invoke the nature of the Buddha that you are to become. I invoke the mind of the Davic angelic song of love. ley lines of this earth, the pulse of the seven rays, the awakening of the Logos, the healing of humanity, the coming forth of the hierarchies, the saving grace of truth. I invoke the angel that you are to wake up. Science of redemption, the science of God. Om Sacred Geomancy. I invoke all mankind to dream in visions, to awaken, to live. Om unity and personality, Om Shanti. Okay, just relax. Close your eyes. Just relax. You can open your eyes. All right. Yay. So it's an interesting process to help people get through the process of learning how to pray. You know, I mean, people pray, but people don't know how to pray. Yeah, and they don't understand why. You know, like, oh my God, please help. You know, that's not really praying, but it works. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it works. But really, to make an emphasis, you know, you gotta you gotta bring Christ, you know, into the prayer, you know, and then Christ will listen, you know, and can't help but listen. Trust me, anybody, whether if you're physically around me, if any person asks for anything, that is my job until I get it done. And, you know, they're blessed as they are to be anywhere near me, because that's what's going to happen, you know. But it really does take up a lot of my time and energy, you know, because of my response, you know. So I put myself in very few people's company, yeah, because it could, I'd be washing dishes 24/7, and I'd be making meals all day long 24/7, you know, because people got to eat and people don't want to clean their dishes, and I'll certainly do it, you know, because if you don't want to do it, I do. So I'd rather have somebody do it who wants to do it, and if that's me, then that's me, you know. So it's the process of what happens when I come into your life. You know, you become service oriented, yeah, and it has nothing to do with sacrificing your life to be in service. It's like, you know, it really is something that is what makes the world go around. Yeah. A little low. Okay. Yeah, I turned it down because of the drum. There. All right. Yeah. So that main thing is just the emphasize the reason why I do the prayer. You know, so that you can better understand it and continue doing it. Yeah, and we're going to make it available. It's being made in little cards, but it's better if you do it with me. You know, because you know, you're looking at someone. You know, and I'm actually Jesus the Christ, and I'm not on a cross, and I'm not somebody's, you know, puppet. You know, to where they say I only serve what they say. You know, it's not true. You have the right to ask me, you know, and you can ask me within yourself, you know, as long as you take a relationship with me. And if you do that and you live your life accordingly and listen to my teachings and everything, you know, that relationship will develop just like any other relationship. You know, it has to be consistent. If you're going to be in a relationship, it's got to be 100%. You know, you're not a fair weather friend. You know, you're there 100%, I'm there 100%, you're there 100%. That's just how it is in the law. With love, there's no compromise and there's no IOU, you know, of any kind. You know, it's completely without any circumstances of expectation. Yeah, so come to know what the prayer is about. Yeah, because it really does. It makes a world of difference, and once you get that difference really structured, you know, then you'll be able to help another person realize what they're missing, and that I do exist, and that for me to be phenomenally in a body walking around, you know, is your opportunity, you know. And you know, it's like crazy ridiculous that, you know, that people don't know, you know, but they will. You know, because there's books being written right now, there's who's who going on, a lot of stuff is coming out in 2021, you know, so you'll feel less, you know, anxious mentioning it, you know, but get it in your own mind, you know, that this is real, and that, you know, what a phenomenon that energy is, because it links you directly to God. And that's, you're not seeking a church and you're not seeking enlightenment. You're seeking a relationship with God. You know, and to have a relationship with God is what's going to make you a spiritual person. You know, so enjoy.